Hello everyone, I'm Brock, Curly Man behind Curly Man's Comics, and today I'm going to be going through my eBay comic book haul. If you're interested in seeing the CGC book that I bought, skip a little bit farther ahead into this video, but before you do that, I want to ask you guys to like and subscribe, but without further ado, let's jump into it. Alright, so I'm starting off with Daredevil number 7. And this is a popular comic and pretty expensive early on Daredevil comic because it's the first appearance of Daredevil with a red suit. But the main reason I got it was Namor comes into this story and he just seems to have a hatred for doors, elevator doors, revolving doors, brick walls, anything that gets in his way, bars, he just tears apart, and I found it to be hilarious. Essentially this story follows Namor coming onto the land because he believes he also has the right to Earth's land as well as its water. He kind of gets in the fight with a bunch of people. Matt Murdock, which is Daredevil's alter ego, is a lawyer, takes him to court. They're trying to kind of argue to help him out, and he gets pissed off in court, starts another huge fight, starts fighting the military and everything, and someone comes from his underwater world and tells him that someone is trying to take it over. So he gets in a fight with Matt Murdock, but eventually leaves and kind of threatens that he'll be back, but right now he has to take care of Atlantis. But as I mentioned, I definitely got it for the comical value. I started to reread all of the new Daredevil comic, or all of the old Daredevil comics as well as the new ones, and I'm about up to issue 150, but this is definitely one of my favorite ones, so if you haven't read it yet, I would definitely check it out. Daredevil 47 is another issue that I picked up on eBay, and I really enjoyed this story. It's the first appearance of Willie Lincoln, and essentially Willie Lincoln is a character who is a military veteran who jumped on a grenade protecting his troops, and it blew up and blinded him. So him and Daredevil kind of make a connection off the bat. Daredevil recommends that he goes back to doing his old job, but he kind of mentions that he can't because he used to be a cop, but he was set up and framed. But essentially this story follows Willie Lincoln trying to get back into the force, Daredevil helping him out. It's a really interesting story, really great character, one of my favorite characters, also one of Stan Lee's favorite characters. He's mentioned that this was one of his favorite comics that he ever wrote. So if you're interested in Stan Lee's favorite issue, as well as one of my favorite issues, check out Daredevil 47. Alright, so another issue that I picked off at eBay was Daredevil 59. And as I mentioned, I'm a big fan of Willie Lincoln. This is another issue that has him in it, but in this issue he's actually a cop. And he's trying to investigate a crime boss. He accidentally stumbles into this crime boss's lair. The crime boss is kind of hesitant about him. He blasts a big bright light into Willie Lincoln's eyes to see if he's actually blind. Of course he is, and they kind of let him off scot-free. He goes, tells his friend Matt Murdock, which is also Daredevil, and then Daredevil fights all of these crime bosses, as well as Willie Lincoln also helps out in the end. I don't want to spoil the ending for all of you, so I'll put a little time on where you can jump ahead if you don't want to know the ending, but the ending is definitely my favorite part. So essentially what happens is Daredevil is fighting this bad guy, and Willie Lincoln is like, I need to help him. He runs up to the bad guy, they're all on the roof, and he accidentally bumps into the bad guy, sending the bad guy over the edge of the building and killing the bad guy. I just thought it was a really funny, weird ending to have, so if you're into something kind of quirky, definitely check out this comic. Alright, so the final Daredevil copy that I picked up is Daredevil 61. And there's not really anything stand out in the issue. It's a great cover, really good team up of bad guys, which is essentially why I liked it. It's got Mr. Hyde, the Cobra, and Jester, and it essentially follows Daredevil fighting these guys as well as their boss in an amusement park, so that's kind of why I really enjoyed it. They get on a roller coaster, they're fighting on a roller coaster, they're in a mirror maze. Just a really interesting story with some really good bad guys. So if you're into that kind of thing, check out this issue. Alright, so the final comic that I recently bought on eBay is Grass King's number 1 at a 9.8. And I believe this is the only CGC slabbed book I've ever bought, but it's just a great story. As I mentioned in past videos, I love the artist, one of my favorite stories. It follows all these people living out in the middle of the nowhere, kind of having their own society, but there's a murderer in their midst. The neighboring village has a vendetta against them, they want to take them out. Really great story about what it is to be human, but this is just one of my favorite comics. I noticed that it does actually have some defects in the corners, which I'm surprised it got a 9.8. It's a thicker issue, so it seemed to be a common trend. I have a couple issues myself that also have these defects, so maybe I won't be as hesitant and I'll actually send in mine also. But it's just one of my favorite stories. I had to have it at a 9.8. So if you're interested in this kind of story, definitely check it out. And those are my recent eBay purchases. I know it's not that big of a haul, but as the comic shops start to open up more, as publishers start to release more comics, I'll definitely be buying more, doing more comic book hauls, maybe some comic book reviews. But for now, I'm Brock, Curly Man behind Curly Man's Comics, signing out.